Kettle's office, there was the introduction of a word, clear, that, as far as we can tell, was the only result of that outreach. And when I say clear, the way that this geographic expansion that Danny was talking about earlier expands to activities that happen off the property but have some sort of nexus to the property is the language that the ordinance uses. The word clear was inserted as an amendment, was offered as an amendment to say clear nexus. And that is very interesting. I'm a lawyer by trade. Nexus is a nexus. A clear nexus is a clear nexus. There's not really a way to tangibly or like quantifiably measure the difference between a nexus and a clear nexus. So this is stuff that attorneys can argue about, but it wasn't really scratching the itch in terms of like what community members were really complaining about, right? That particular amendment didn't go to the heart of what that issue was about expanding geography. It just maybe inserts an adjective that, you know, we could all debate differently about whether something's a nexus, a clear nexus, no nexus at all. You know, that is already up for argument.
Okay, I want you to continue this. I just keep having
you know, I welcome them.
And the thing is that, you know, some of you out there might be saying, well, why, Tony, why are you bringing this up? I'm bringing it up the same reason why I brought it up during COVID. In these types of situations, often it is marginalized communities, Black and brown people, that they disproportionately affect the most. Has there been enough time to see if that's the case? You know, without having done any research, I know that that's probably going to be the case. That's how. But has there been enough time? Do we know that if these laws are disproportionately, you know, impacting and affecting marginalized communities and Black and brown folks?
Yeah, I think it's too new for us to see the way that this law is actually operating. You know, we've talked in our last broadcast about the pace of change of public safety. You know, our policy director, Taryn Darling, had mentioned on our last broadcast that we are seeing public safety laws being introduced at council at a rate of like once a month or more frequently than that. And between the time that
every couple of weeks.
She said every couple of weeks. I'm sorry. What do I mean? What am I saying? Once a month.
Every couple of weeks. That's Anyway.
And the pace of it, the way that the pace of it is, typically a public safety law goes in front of the Public Safety Committee for first reading. That is an opportunity for the council members to understand what the proposal is, to be able to ask questions about it, to be able to discuss it. Then it goes 2 weeks later in front of Public Safety Committee again for a second reading. Usually by that time, folks have had a chance to work with their staff, potentially work with their constituents, and offer up some amendments to that law, and they discuss those. And that at that point, it is either passed by the committee, which means recommended for a full vote by council, or it isn't. Assuming it goes past the Public Safety Committee, they have a majority vote of the committee to move it to full council. A week later, we see it on the full council agenda. So that means that there is the potential for a public safety law to change in the course of 3 weeks. So that is what Taryn was referring to. And sometimes this is the pace at which things happen. And so, you know, you asked me an earlier question about community members, like, what do you do if you have concerns or thoughts about a law like this? Well, it is so difficult, right? Because most of us are operating on survival mode. You know, we are not, you know, sitting there waiting the second that something hits the council's agenda, making time off of work if we can, finding childcare for our kids or family members that we're caretaking, getting down to council at 9:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, making our voice heard. Like, most of us don't have the luxury and privilege of being able to operate in that way. And so this type of implementation of laws and this really fast pace that it moves at is really detrimental to community members. And so, you know, this is why we encourage folks to talk to the CPC, because, you know, our job is to stay tuned in, is to try to catch these things, to intervene as quickly as possible, to do the policy analysis. So helping people understand what this means, right? A lot of these things are complex laws. And so our ability to be able to provide that review and analysis, have conversations with communities about what this means, hear feedback back from them, and then introduce that into the legislative process. But even with our work, this pace is detrimental to communities being able to have their voice heard, and for us to be able to have the time to engage with community members, to be able to do all of that, and then get that to council at a rate that impacts these laws. And so this is if there was a wand and I could change one thing about that, it is that the process would require more time and require a community input process. I think another thing that is notable is when bills are introduced in council, central staff prepares a memo that helps to outline the impacts of those bills. One part of that memo is a racial impact analysis, racial equity impact analysis. And that basically means that it's an analysis of the impact of this legislation on Black and Brown communities, on LGBTQ plus communities, on other vulnerable communities, so that there's an understanding of what, if passed, this law would do. That was not done in this case. And so that was another one of CPC's concerns, is that when we looked at the memo that had been produced on this, it was blank when it came to the racial equity analysis. And so this is another thing that if I could wave that wand, I would require that something cannot be introduced to council without an analysis done about how this impacts Black and Brown communities.
We're talking about chronic nuisance laws. Now, I'm going to interrupt this conversation for a second just so that I can say this. This is why we are doing Community Election Connection. This is why we are sharing information with you about things that are taking place in your community so that you can be aware of what you want from these officials that you are electing. What is their policy? Where do they stand? How will they notify you? Will they notify you when these changes become laws that affect and impact you, your neighborhood, your community, your apparently residents? Okay, I'm done. But this is why we have the Community Election Connection. And I definitely want to thank, the Community Police Commission for seeing the significance and importance of understanding that this concept of police accountability extends beyond, and not that it shouldn't also include police brutality and police, roughing up folks, but there are so much more that you need to be aware of so that you can talk to your elected official and get some kind of response. Okay, now back to our regularly scheduled discussion about the chronic nuisance laws and what this looks like, what this means. I mean, I could ask the question, EC, but I'm just going to let you, with your comments here, just in the last 10 minutes we have, just kind of make this make sense, because it's not making sense to me how these changes have happened and we don't know about it, and we don't know why they happened and what spurred them and what went from being something to protect communities from after hours nightclubs. Turn potentially into, you know what? I'm not really a fan of yours. I don't like it when your cousins come over. I'm going to file a complaint. And it becomes a complaint at that point. And with 3 of these, this is just too much. $37,500. And in order to get this rectified, you have to do it at $500 a day and $750 a day.
It's now $750
a day. And the ultimate body or person or individual who will be making these decisions, whether it's about healthcare, is who?
The chief of police.
Okay.
The chief of police. And I wonder too, we're sitting here having this conversation, as is our job and as is our honor to do. And I just wonder what our system would look like if it was Seattle Police Department leading this type of conversation, right? If there was if there was an opportunity for folks to be able to talk to the department directly about this, if the mayor's office was leading this conversation, right? This was originally proposed by the mayor's office and then introduced to council. What about the mayor's office having conversations with communities about chronic nuisance and collecting input that then informs what goes forward? What about council members? If I'm a community member, I would expect I am a community member, and I do expect my council member to be hosting forums like this, to be hosting conversations like this, to be saying, hey, everybody, gather around, right? In my case, it happens to be District 2. District 2, gather around. Hey, we're thinking about something that we think we might change. It's about chronic nuisance. Here's how it works. I want to know what you think because I need to know how to vote, right? And so I love how you framed the community election connection that is happening. You know, we personally in CPC, we don't engage in campaign activities, but we do encourage folks to be able to participate, right? Yeah. There's a civic participation, and we want to make that accessible to community members. And that means that all of us in government have a responsibility to talk to the people about things that impact them.
Well, once again, unfortunately, we're out of time.
Oh, is that right?
This happened to us last time. Again, there's so much to unravel here, and the next conversation on the 30th is going to be about surveillance, and I don't know how we're going to get to that. I just want to give everybody, I have to limit you to like 30 seconds, but I'd like to get everyone's feedback. I don't, and on October 21st, we're going to take, I think, 2 hours.
That's right.
For the town hall meeting where we'll have a little more time, but then we'll also be hearing feedback from the community as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, I want to give each of you 30 seconds. Ken, I'm going to start with you. Chronic nuisance, if there's anything that you'd like to share with those who are listening right now about chronic nuisance in 30 seconds, I want to give you that.
30 seconds, yes. Do not despair. We shared a lot. There's a lot of language, a lot of lingo. There's some folks who are like, what does, I don't understand half the stuff you shared. Please reach out to CPC. This is why I was appointed to this role. Reach out to me, reach out to this team. We'd love to have a sit down talk and further really break down what this looks like.
And Danny, Senior Policy Advisor.
Yes. I want to quickly say we didn't touch on due process concerns, but I did want to say that although the property owner, you know, if this happens to you, you don't have a say on whether the police chief determines your property a chronic nuisance, but the collaboration we did with Councilmember Hollingsworth's office with an amendment passed that gives some kind of due process. It requires the city attorney to consider any documentation provided by the property owner that contests the designation before pursuing court action. So in that way, even if the police chief says this is a nuisance, you would have the opportunity to contest it in that way before the city attorney pursues it. And I just wanted to let people know that.
I appreciate that. Thank you for pointing that out.
And EC, again, you know, final words. And I'm sorry I have to limit you. This time goes by so fast when we're talking about these things. And as you know, we had to really narrow it down just to get to the point where we were just, anyway.
We have unlimited time because this is our job. If you want to engage with us in the Community Police Commission, please reach out to us. You can reach us collectively at ocpc@seattle.gov. But please feel free to reach out to any of us, first name, last name @seattle.gov. We're happy to have a conversation with you anytime, and that is in a place of your comfort. If you want to meet at your local coffee shop or wherever makes sense is comfortable for you, we are happy to engage with you about this topic, about any topic that deals with public safety and police accountability. And please come to our town hall on October 21st, 6 to 8 here at the Columbia City Theater.
October 21st. You've been listening to Rainier Avenue Radio, and this has been part 2 of our 4-part series on police accountability. Today, we took a closer look and needed way more time at Seattle's chronic nuisance laws, what they are, how they work, how they affect our community. I did tell you at the beginning of this show that you were going to find out about these. So I want to thank my guests for joining me. EC Ameh, Executive Director of the Community Police Commission. Senior Policy Advisor Danny Sullivan, thank you. And Ken Isimbe, Commissioner for this. We've got another one coming up on the 30th. We're going to be talking about surveillance. And again, just recently a law passed.
Yes.
Where we had the opportunity to ask candidates from our debate about their position on this. And so, and I'm not, you know, I don't want to seem like I'm picking on one side or the other. I guess an argument can be made that more surveillance might result in more safety.
That's true.
You know,
An argument can be made.
there's an argument also that more surveillance will only enhance the opportunities to, I want to say that word, mess with communities who are already feeling that they are being targeted. So if you're an immigrant, if you're Black, if you're brown, if you're a marginalized community, more surveillance to them means more cameras on your behavior and what you do. So that, but we're gonna tackle all that next on the 30th. All right. I know right now I'm on a nuisance. Anyway, thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Again, special thanks to the Community Police Commission. If you have questions, if you have complaints, they can call you, right, and contact you. And I'm just saying, you will take it to the highest echelon.
The highest echelon.
For trying to get an answer. I'm
That's
just saying what you said.
That's right. Of the Seattle Police Department and city government, and it has happened, and it will continue to.
And if you think that what you're complaining about is who's going to listen insignificant, you will listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You will listen.
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
To these complaints.
And we'll act on it. Not just,
Yeah.
And act on it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And act on it. I think that's good. Thank you, Ken. I think that's a really important part of the statement. Again, it's me, Tony B. Tune back in on the 30th for our conversation on surveillance. If you want to go back and watch part 1 on the consent decree, and you're going, well, wait a minute, I haven't even heard the consent decree. Go back and check out that conversation. That's it. That's all the time that we have. Please join us for our next conversation on police accountability. And again, on the 21st of October, we invite you to come down here to the Columbia City Theater for a town hall meeting where we'll go over all its stuff, and you, the public, will have an opportunity to ask questions, and you can be just as shocked and surprised as I was to find this information out. Thanks for joining us.